What is up? It's a Figure Hunter, and today we have part 4 in a 4-part series for an in-depth review of the Amazfit Balance, looking at different subsets of the Amazfit, first as a watch, then looking at just the wellness, readiness, sleep features, then looking at the workout and training features, and now doing just sort of a comprehensive summary of my high points of those and what my recommendations and thoughts on the Amazfit Balance are. So if you like this review, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing for more. If you're new to this channel, I try to focus on only testing devices for higher intensity training, but within that, I only test devices that offer both wellness and recovery metrics and analysis, as well as workout and training metrics and analysis. I try to make sure all my reviews, they don't just announce a feature, but I compare it in the competitive landscape of other devices on the market. In all my reviews, I just have to focus my time on content itself instead of fancy editing skills, so they're always no frills reviews. So now looking in the grand summary of the Amazfit Balance, we're going to talk in summary about the areas. If you have seen any of the previous videos, I have a more comprehensive video of the watch itself. It's just a daily use watch, not looking at the physiological recommendation components. I have an in-depth analysis of the wellness, readiness, sleep score, and how it compares in an in-depth fashion to Garmin and to Whoop across a multiple of weeks. So that's a review. It's all in the description below, the links to others reviews if you want to dive into some part. And then I have an in-depth analysis of the workout recommendations, how it handles different types of workouts, different types of training, how it compares to Garmin over a long period of time, as well as a heart rate accuracy tracking testing for higher intensity workouts. How did it hold up? And it held up great. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk in summary about each of those areas, just the high points of what I liked, didn't like, what I used, didn't use, how it, what worked and didn't work, and then we'll come back together and I'll give you some thoughts on the Amazfit Balance relative to other offers in the industry and on the market right now. So let's dive in. All right, so looking at the watch overall, it is just freaking good looking. I mean, I just can't get enough of how great it looks. Obviously, it's a 1.5-inch screen. That is like the biggest on the market. It's got the biggest like screen to overall size ratio possible. So just, fantastic all around. I think it functions really well as a watch. I would probably change out the band because I don't like fixed bands, but absolutely fine. I do like the scrolling crown, like if you're going to move things around, I think that works fine. No issues there. I like it has 2-button layout, but overall it is like not taken any damage, and I have not babied it or watched it. The aluminum casing is light and sleek and very comfortable. So just 10 out of 10 when it comes to like watch design. The functions of it all really work well. The fact that you can adjust this, you can change like the quick settings, you can change the backlight. All the notifications come in, they're clear, they have great icons. It's just like, man, they did a really good job. The other thing, besides just the pure look of this watch, is just 10 out of 10. The other thing that I really like is the fact that there's all these cool watch faces, like there's really, like just vibrant colors. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but just vibrant colors. I like that it's got these collection of watch faces that I think are really cool and stand out. They each have secondary always on displays behind them. Some of them are adjustable, and then like the one we saw here, it is kind of cool because you can just click on an area of the watch face and it will jump to that section. So that's just the date. So this one only has the one, but really awesome. The other thing I would say is that the Alexa does work really well. You can see that in the in-depth review. So I don't find myself using it. So the watch is great. And then the other thing is the battery life is great. So it claims 14 days. I've been using 70% brightness with always on display, not using the auto brightness, and I'm getting about 6.5 days, which I still think is fantastic because it's just blazing bright, 70%. And always on display, and I'm not using the auto adjust because I didn't like the auto adjust. It just made it too dim in different settings. But 10 out of 10 on the watch, just as a watch, and the way it functions, how consistent it functions, and how everything just seems to work. Okay, so looking at the wellness features, the readiness is like the biggest one. That came out, it looks like it culminates or brings together a whole bunch of different physiological factors. If you dive into it, you can see that it it takes in multiple different things. That's 6 right there, different factors, and it shows you a tracking over a period of time. The problem is that it was always giving me 72, like 70 to 80, and that didn't seem helpful. The other thing is looking at stress. Stress, it is a great concept, but it wouldn't be able to track your stress at the most stressful time. So if you're moving around too much, which is when you're typically stressful, it doesn't pick up your stress measurement. So it's only going to track your stress when you're actually in a less stressed state. Then you have sleep. Obviously, the sleep is actually really beautifully displayed. I mean, just beautiful. But the score is 72. It's like always giving me these great scores. I really like how they laid it out. I like how they showed the sleep phases, and it does track naps. It picked up naps perfectly. I think the sleep is just gorgeous on the watch, but again, it always given me a good score. The body fat composition, I just found all over the place. It gave you a bunch of cool stats, but I just found it to be totally useless because it gave me like anywhere from 3.5% body fat to 14% body fat, and I'm 13%. So it's just all over the spectrum, and every time I took a measurement, it was just problematic. But one of the positive things in looking at some of these sleep features, or not sleep features, the wellness features, are the components of the readiness score. I do think it's really nice that it's giving you direction, and it's specifically taking your sleep HRV, your nightly HRV value, your nightly resting heart rate. So each of those, the components itself adds value. It actually gives you a body temperature overnight, which is not often available on all devices. So those factors are okay. So now focusing primarily on the workouts themselves, so let's just, obviously it has like a billion workouts. Watches that do that, I don't think offer any value, that it's anything unique. If they say they have 150 sports profiles, it just means they put a little picture and a name. Most of them don't have training details specific for that sport profile, so it's not really of use, but it all works great. And you can categorize, obviously, if you're doing, a whole bunch of one of these particulars and then another of the particulars, you can tell you logged a good amount of elliptical time versus yoga time for a 1 month cycle. But in the workout, looks great. Everything's visually great. Everything just is as good as it could possibly be. The most important, or the meat and potatoes, is going to be in the workout analysis. So we'll look at a recent one and then how it correlates that into information. So it always gives you this aerobic training effect, your anaerobic training effect, and a total load. It is, if we compare it to Garmin, if you look at the in-depth review that I did of the workout analytics relative to Garmin, you can see that obviously it's higher on the aerobic training effect and a lot higher on the anaerobic. So I kind of discount the anaerobic as an evaluation for worth in this, but the aerobic training effect is close. And then because the aerobic training effect is higher than Garmin, the load is going to be higher. But overall, I just love. And then the other thing I have to mention, of course, is the heart rate sensor is an excellent heart rate sensor at a correlation of 0.95 to a heart rate monitor. I just love that there's, it just does everything really well. The most important being that it gives you a workout rigor evaluation, which flows through to training recommendations, which we can look at the training recommendations, which I think are similar. It's always a little bit higher load than Garmin, but it's just effective. It's effective for knowing, how you're doing and what, how it's comparing this week for past weeks. So I am a little bit lower on the training this week relative to past week. So it's doing what it's supposed to. And then the VO2 max is always lower than most other instruments out there. So mine's like around 46 or 47 across other devices. And then it gives you this recovery time. I find that the recovery time is higher. It is technically higher. If you look at that in-depth review of the workout specifics, it is higher than Garmin. But overall, it's still sort of all based on the one baseline. So as long as it's consistent, it's worthwhile. So just great overall workout analytics for the most part, and training and recovery recommendations for the most part. So in grand summary, oh my God, it's just been a lot of work in looking at this, because this is an interesting device at a super affordable price. So obviously you can see, it's like 10 out of 10 score on the general watch use. It's 5 out of 10 on the wellness use and the wellness recommendations, and 7 out of 10 on the training recommendations. So where does that put it? And where does that put it in the competitive landscape today? So if you were to give me $250, I thought I would just summarize it by saying, like, if I had $250 to spend, what would I buy? So give me $250 to spend. I would wrestle. I wouldn't, there'd be multiple watches I wouldn't look at, and I'll tell you what those are. I would wrestle between this and the Polar Pacer. I think they're both $230. So the Polar Pacer really nails consistently the wellness recovery side, sleep score side, as well as because it really does a great job there, and it does a great job with training and training recommendations. So it does a great job there, but it's like older technology screen, about the same battery life for that older technology screen, and just doesn't function as well as a watch and is a much lesser of an experience as a watch. So really would battle that head to head. I would not look. They're the ones I wouldn't look at. I wouldn't look at the Coros Pace 3. Coros Pace 3 just totally misses the mark on any kind of wellness recommendations at all. I would not look at the Vivo Active 5. The Vivo Active 5 from Garmin is a beautiful watch too, but it just totally misses the training analytics. And even within that, if you had more money, I wouldn't look at the Venue 3 because the Venue 3 doesn't include training analytics either. So they only have the wellness analytics. So it puts it tough. In my honest opinion, I would probably say I would try to come up with another $100 on top of the $250 that you just gave me and buy the Garmin 265 used or on sale. So the Garmin 265 is at $450. And I just feel like it has all the wellness, all the training, and a lot more. It does all the wellness right, does all the training right, and it's a big, beautiful watch in other ways too. I mean, I actually think this one looks the best of all, but whatever. It adds the most comprehensive value on the Garmin 400 265. So in final summary for this watch itself, the Amazfit Balance, I would summarize it by saying it is an awesome looking and awesome functioning watch. It has a great heart rate sensor. They really fixed that. I'm happy to see that. It's got good, solid workout and training analysis and recommendations. And it's got not helpful wellness, sleep, readiness recommendations, but does have a good, solid list of physiological metrics that you can track and glean from them what you want, even if the readiness and sleep analysis recommendations are not of value. So with that, that's the full summary. We'll dive into any of those little subset videos. The links are in the description below. The full and final look at the Amazfit Balance. It's a fit gear hunter. Thank you so much for watching.